What's up, Dream Builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Builder? Have you been thinking about getting into real estate? Maybe you're already in real estate, but you're trying to figure out how you can scale your business and you just don't know what to look out for. How do you build the right team around you? How do you make a pivot in a market like we're in right now, where maybe you're looking to get into the business out of the corporate world, or maybe you're looking to scale when it seems like nothing's going your way? Well, in today's episode, we have Mr. Jay Kender, and Jay is a fellow EXP agent, but more than that, he is somebody who's been doing it for many years. He's a coach, he's an entrepreneur, he's a speaker, and he drops so much wisdom for any real estate agent or broker. So if you're in a position where you can sit down, take some notes, that's exactly what you'll want to do, because we tap into not only his successes and how he's created the success, but also what's been his biggest challenges and obstacles and how he overcame that. So sit down, take some notes. Let's jump right into it. What's up, Dream Nation? We are back again with another real estate podcast. And this time I'm excited because I get to learn from one of my brothers about how he's been able to build the massive empire that he already has, but at the same time, how you can do the same thing and what's he doing right now in real estate and where does he see the market going. So stay tuned because this one I'm sure is going to be action-packed. But without further ado, help me welcome my brother, Mr. Jay Kender, to the show. Jay, you want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
What's up, Dream Nation? I'm honored to be here. Happy to be here. Hopefully going to add some value to your life today. That's my goal and always my goal. So it's a pleasure to be here, man, for sure.
Man, I love it. And so right now, are you in Texas still?
Yep. I'm in Frisco, Texas for the time being. That's where I've been living here since 2013, originally from Little Lawton, Oklahoma. So that's where I built my first real estate business was in Lawton, Oklahoma.
Got it. I love it. And I always like to make sure that we give the proper introduction. So obviously I know who you are and thousands of other people know who you are. But for anybody who's listening to this and has not heard of you before, I always like to think of us as real estate agents and really just entrepreneurs, just like superheroes. And why is because we're putting on a cape. We're flying around the world and we're trying to solve the biggest problems. So before, you've been featured in national publications. Before, you've now had a team of, 10,000 agents and growing. If we could take it back to when you were just a young boy, tell me, who is Jay Kender?
Oh, man. So, how young are we going? How far back are we going?
Give us a brief rundown of it. As a kid, were you always who you are now?
Absolutely not. Yeah, I was voted most in school. So I was I've always been a little bit of a rebel. I would jokingly tell people I graduated in the top 25 of my class, but there was only 36 of us. So I went to a really small school. I grew up in the country, no brothers, no sisters. And so I had a lot of time to myself. I rode the bus to school and we lived out in the country. So there was no neighbors, nobody really. So I kind of just did my own thing out in the country, blow stuff up, go fishing, go, catching crawdads, stuff like that. So I grew up in the country and went to a small school and I played every sport. I wasn't very good at any of them. That's pretty much it. Just really didn't know where I was going to go with my life. I knew one thing I did know is I didn't want to get in real estate at the time that I graduated. And mainly it was because my dad was in real estate. And the only thing I really knew about real estate was that he was always late. He was always later than he said he was going to be. And he was always pissed off when it was time to go on vacation. And so what I know now is it's hard to leave your business. And I have a different perspective now being in it. But when I graduated high school, I had no idea what I was going to do. I went to college for a couple semesters. And then I saw a guy that I'd been mowing my dad's rental property. So I was mowing yards and going to college and got all the crappy yards is what he always gave me, the people that moved out, didn't pay the rent and didn't mow the grass. And so those are the yards that I got to mow. And I remember coming in one day, I was getting my check. It was like $400. And this agent that didn't look like he had done anything that day. And he was picking up a check from my dad. It was over $5,000. And I was like, what did he do today? I feel like I worked pretty hard to get this $400, but he didn't look like he's broke a sweat today. And that was when I started being interested in maybe getting into real estate. And so started taking the class. And what got me interested was I saw that shoot, I do that once a month, and I'd be pretty good to go. But that was my foray into real estate.
I love it. Now, when you first got in, where did you was it an easy road for you because you already had your dad, or like, where did you start to get your business from?
Yeah, I struggled. Like the one thing that we were just talking about this a little earlier today. The one thing that probably helped me the most was I can't remember the guy's name, but he came into the office and he was looking for my dad because my dad had taken this Dale Carnegie course. And that when they come back through town, they would always go back and visit the people and, hey, who do you know that you might want to take the class? Well, I was standing up in the front of the office and he'd asked for my dad. And he's like, you want to go? And I was like, I don't even know what it is. What is it? And so they started telling me what it is. I was like, yeah, didn't really want to do it because I wasn't naturally like comfortable speaking in front of people or anything like that. But I didn't really know what this class was really all about. So I said, yeah, sure. If you're going to pay for it, I'll go. And so he signed me up. And that was where I read the first book I ever read, which was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Nobody could have convinced me to read a book at this time in my life. I didn't read books. If you'd have told me I was going to have read as many books as I have, usually on Audible, I would have told you you're crazy at that age. But I read that book and it was a game changer. That book was really good. I just listened to it again, actually, this last week. Everyone should listen to that book.
I would agree.
That's a great book. And so going through that was really helpful. But I was always going to these different classes. Like if somebody was teaching something, I remember there's one guy named Roger Butcher that, this is how long ago it was. They send out these blast faxes to every real estate office. And then they would that stuff would be laying around up front. And that was a free way of marketing back in the day, by the way, which was really gangster. I actually went to a class where they taught you how to do broadcast fax. Yeah. And get your marketing in front of everybody that has a fax machine. That was actually a thing. So
I never heard of broadcast fax.
Yeah, the beauty of it was you were using someone else's paper. The cost was nothing. It was actually brilliant. And they actually have the laws around it now that you can't do it from back in the day when everybody had a fax machine. But those were the days. So anyways, I get this class, some guy, Roger Butcher, and he's got all these things he's going to teach or whatever, FSBOs and all this other stuff. I'd been going, my dad had bought a Coldwell Banker. So I'd gone to that year, I got my license, I went to the event and I sat through a bunch of these classes, people teaching stuff like David Knox and some of these other people. And I was picking up little nuggets along the way. And I think it took me a few months to make my first sale. I remember one of the agents in the office tried to steal the deal from me, tried to help me, but then tried to take it from me. I'm like, what is it? I said, Are you really trying to steal this client from me? And it was not easy, I would say, for sure. And I remember that there were some expired listings that the company had, and my dad nobody wanted them, and they were REO. And I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, they were like all under 40,000. I was like, I'll take them, give them to me. So I picked up an REO account early on, and there was never any money made with that. There were so low commissions, $750 or something like that was all you made. And I was on a split, of course, at the time. But so it didn't really make a whole lot of money. But I ended up selling like 20 houses, I think, in the first full year coming into 1998. And so that was my first full year. Was 22 houses that I sold, and most of it was buyers coming from floor time. And then I started figuring out FSBOs and expired that year as well. And so I had a handful. I remember filling out my goal sheet, where my last 10 deals came from, where they came from. And it was like personal referral. All right, REO. Then it was expired, FSBO expired. So you can see what's working, right? This FSBO expired thing is working pretty good. And so, that was really where, that's where I learned how to win a listing, was working FSBOs and expireds, for sure.
I love it. I love it, man. Now, you were able to then gain the recognition and then start a coaching business. So you started coaching. What was the transition like for that? And did it come out of a necessity? Did you get thrown in? Or what was that like?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, so I continued to sell real estate and got a good friend of mine, Mike Reese, into real estate. I was probably 20. This time I was probably 22, maybe 23 years old. And I was selling probably 300 or 400 homes a year. At my peak, I did 531 homes in 1 year. And a few years.
Did you have a team?
Yeah, I built a team. I built a big team. And about 3 years prior to that, I was selling 300 plus homes. But I saw a buddy of mine, Mike Reese, at Lake Texoma. I knew him from the one college course that we took together. It was music appreciation, I think. And he used to laugh because he'd say I would stay for roll call and then I would just sneak out the back door. I wasn't very good at doing the college thing, but I ran into him at the lake and I had a big boat. I've always been I'm a lake guy. I've always been a big boat fan. And as soon as I could afford one, I bought a 35-foot fountain. And he saw me on this boat, and he's like, "Is that Jay Kinder?" And one of our mutual buddies was like, "Yeah, man, that's him." So he comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, man, is this your boat or your dad's boat?" I was like, "This is my boat." He's like, "Man, what do you do?" I said, "I sell real estate." So Mike hits me with a barrage of questions for the rest of the day. We're talking business, and then he literally quits his job and gets into real estate. And I never really helped anyone in real estate before, a little bit, because like when you go to events and they put you on stage and you're telling your story, what you're doing, this, that, and the other, and then people want to, ask you questions. And I always enjoyed helping people. Like I will talk real estate even to this day all night. Like, you want to talk shop, I'll talk shop with you. And eventually, I guess at one point, it just got to a point where I was selling. There's 1 month where I sold 50 homes, and the first rolled around, and it was like, man, I gotta do it again. Like, it was a rough month, you know what I'm saying? It was like
Right.
a lot of work, a lot of weekends and late evenings. And then it was just like, man, I got to do it again. And so there has to be a better way. And so Mike and I helped Mike build his business to 300 and something transactions in his second year. He did his second year or third year, he did 1.2 million GCI. His third year, he did 1.2 million. So like, he did it way faster, like in half the time, but it was because he did the right things in the right order. He didn't make all the same mistakes I made. I couldn't have told you how I had become successful, because I'd done so many things that didn't work, but I tried everything. And so I tried all these different things. And I remember I'd buy this, whatever this course thing was, or Rick DeLuca, and I'd go through it and I would try something and it wouldn't work. I'd be like, dang. And then I would just go to the next thing and try something else. And eventually you find things that work, but like, I did a lot of things that didn't work. And so it took a little longer for me to become successful, but Mike didn't make mistakes. Like, he had the same website I had coming before he even had a license. He had the website that I was using, that I was generating leads with. And so like, he had the shortcut to success is what I call it. It's modeling success, but I didn't know that I could help him get there faster necessarily, because to me it was just really hard.
Yeah.
But when he would ask me, "Hey man, should I do this or that?" But, "Oh, don't do that. That's a waste. That doesn't work at all. So don't do this." And so that wasn't really coaching, but we both were inspired by the fact that it was that easy for him that we could probably help other people do it. And so we wanted to do something together. We thought maybe open a brokerage or something like that. And then we had one of our mentors, Jay Abraham, that really helped us have a concrete vision for what we were going to be spending our time doing, building something that's of value. And it started out with partnering with the website company we had, and we sold websites, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And ultimately, the real part of the story, and I usually don't tell this part of the story just because I don't want to take up all the time telling the story, but it was horrible. It was horribly hard. Like, I stepped out of my business and it immediately collapsed. So I was the key to the business being successful. And I was frustrated because every time I would step out of production, I'd get sucked back in, and when it would start losing money, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of the business. And so I was like, I did it 3 times before I finally nailed it. Read a book by a guy named Greg Crabtree. And this is my secret to success, if y'all haven't figured it out already. It's like, I'm going to mess up, but I'm going to find whoever the best in the world is, and I'm going to pay them what I got to pay them to learn what it is that they know, because somebody probably has the answer somewhere. And that's what I always have done. I'm like, so I finally was like, I just don't understand the accounting side of this. I don't know what I can and can't do. I need somebody to help me with the books and setting up a business to be profitable without me. Like, I don't want to be the one that makes it profitable. And so I read this book called Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits by Greg Crabtree, and changed my life. And it was an accounting book. I read it twice in one weekend, and I was like, this is amazing. So we hired the guy, flew him in, we laid it all out, applied his principles to the business, did the math. I was negative 3% pre-tax profit. But we started running the business on the metrics of the business, and I stepped out again, and we drove it up to 15% pre-tax profit the next year, then to 22% pre-tax profit without me in the business, fully removed, living in another city. At that time, when we did that, no one else had done that. People would say they'd stepped out of production, but they were still in the office every day. I moved to a different city. So it was really hard. And what made it worse was this was 2007, 2008. So at the same time, my number one guy, my top 3 agents and my listing coordinator all quit to go start a company together in middle of 2007. So things were falling apart anyways, right? Like with the crash. And it's like business was still doing well, but it was definitely going down. Things were changing. Listings weren't selling. Price reductions became a big deal. I had my listings ballooned up to 200 at one point. And none of them were happy because, none of them were selling. So like, it was disaster. It was all like all my success was born out of disaster. Back in the business for 07, 08, took me till 2010 to really come out of the debt that was created from that. All my rentals, all my new construction, developments, everything just came crashing down. I came this close to, I never really thought about filing bankruptcy because I didn't really know how to and didn't know what that even meant at the time. But all I knew was just work harder, get up earlier, work harder. And I tried to muscle through it. And so, and we made it barely, but we survived it. But I learned the most about myself during that time. And it wasn't any better in the coaching business, by the way, that we had started. We're so brilliantly at the same time. We were selling these websites, and 90% of the revenue was coming from these residuals from selling these websites.
Yeah.
And then one day they got sued, and never again did we get a check. So we had 12 or 15 employees, and we basically didn't have a choice but to shift into a coaching model. And so we launched our coaching, and we're razor thin, close to dead. And I remember me and Mike looking at each other, man, we've got to be crazy. Like, we've got to be absolutely stupid or crazy to continue this.
Right.
When this company should be dead. We should already be dead. We shouldn't even be in existence. And so we shifted that, barely make it out of that to become a coaching company. And then lo and behold, our accountant that told us he told us, I'll never forget it. We're at Lone Star Steakhouse, and Mike had interviewed this guy to be our operations guy and our accountant for the company. And he said, if accounting was an Olympic sport, I'm a triple gold medalist. I was like, that's a pretty bold statement. You're right. Right? Like, I believe this guy might be good. So he decides, instead of paying the payroll tax, he decides to not pay the payroll tax, and he doesn't tell us that he does this. And so we accumulated a loan from the IRS, essentially, for ended up being over $100,000 we owed the IRS. We didn't learn about that until about the middle of 2007, about the same time everything was falling apart. So all of that stuff was the things I don't always get to tell in the story of success. But let me tell you, like, anybody if you're going through some stuff, just know that keep going, right? If you're going through hell, just keep on going, because on the other side of it is the lessons that you take away and you learn that really help you with getting to the success that you were chasing in the first place. But there's no easy road. That's for sure. Not that I found anyways.
No, man, I love that. I always say joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain. And it's always going to rain, and it's always going to have sunshine, but you got to be able to weather the storm. And I think that was what you did. And so kudos to you for sure. But one thing that it seems like you've always been able to do is scale really quickly. And you also have been able to get out of your own way, at least after that first stint where you said, listen, I keep trying to get out, but I can't. And I feel like with a lot of real estate agents, especially, or even people who start their own small brokerage, they can't get out of their own way, and they don't understand the power of scaling. Was there a book? Was there a mentor? Oh, yeah. Where did you learn that to be able to scale quickly?
Yeah. What a great question, man. And so, the first book was Mastering the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish. He has since wrote a new book called Scaling Up, as you might imagine. And that was getting to $1 million in a business. That's not that hard, really. If you have sales and marketing skills, anybody can build a business to $1 million. I believe, with a couple of key people with you, right? Like, you need a couple people that can do the things you can't do, and that you shouldn't be doing. Up to $1 million, I think that it's an optional person, a system process type person, somebody that can take your idea and get it to 80% executed, and then you polish off the last 20%. That kind of person that can, it's an operator it's an operator, someone that's a get shit done person. That kind of person is extremely valuable with an entrepreneurial person, visionary, these ideas that you got all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need somebody that can help you execute. And depending on your personality, it could be something else. Like, I'm the visionary kind of guy, an idea guy, and want to do something big. And so I'm always throwing these things out there. But the operator that you work with is really good for me, because they'll make that shit come real. Right. So that's a key piece of it. It could be you're a processor, but then you're going to need an operator, or you're going to need, because otherwise you'll just over process everything, right? You'll be like, I was going to do this open house, but I needed to build a process first for how I was going to do this and this, and you never actually do an open house. So, like, there's different personalities, and it doesn't mean you can't be successful. You just got to know who's Batman and who's your Robin, you know what I'm saying, so to speak, so that you can, execute things faster, because you'll overthink them. So you just understand your personality and get that opposite kind of, in a lot of ways, sometimes the opposite of you, because we tend to gravitate towards hiring people that are just like us. But I don't know why, but I like that person. It's probably because they're just like you. That's probably not who you need. You need somebody that can do the stuff that's low dollar per hour. It's not the highest return of investment of time type activities, and a lot of that's the stuff that we get stuck doing in real estate. And yeah, that's to a million. I think that's a key component is the right people around you. Going from 1 million to 5 was the hardest. There was so many lessons in leadership and people and just things, systems and processes. And there was just a tremendous amount to learn. And business model, to be honest with you, is what you're doing sustainable. What's the lid on your business model? And we didn't learn a lot of this stuff until we hit the ceiling on some of these different business models that we had. And yeah, it's definitely interesting as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. And when you say 1 million and then 1 to 5, you're talking specifically in GCI.
I'm talking about this in income. GCI would be if it was a real estate business, but 1 to 5 million in selling real estate. I've never gotten above 2.5 million. So I don't know. I couldn't really coach you to get to 5 million in GCI. We have coached a few people that got there, but it scales to a certain point, and then typically most teams, the business model fails them. Right, your best people leave and go out on their own, and unless you can create opportunity for those best people, because that's what sucks about building a mega team is your best people eventually are going to leave you because they're not going to stay on that split forever. And eventually what happens is your best people, that ones that are closing 2 or 3 or 5 deals a month, are going to start getting referrals from the first year that they were with you and the second year they were with you. And then by year 5, you do the math. And I remember I hated this. The question would be, hey, I want to meet with you, Jay. I want to talk to you about my split. Oh gosh.
Right.
And, I knew it was coming. And then so I had pulled up the data and I would be like, shoot, man, half that business is coming to them, not through me. Yeah. And even though it may have came from me before and it was a referral, they would have followed them somewhere else because they had a good relationship. The agent did a good job, whatever. And so that now it's 50-50. And so like the value proposition for 50-50 is not it's sustainable. They're going to leave. They're going to do the math. They can do half the deals and make the same money, or they can do twice the money. They can do the same deals and double the money. Right? And then they had to put some systems in place and solve some things, but that was always the challenge. And so like at a certain point in trying to scale up your real estate business, you run into this rebuilding that you have to do around your agents consistently. And a lot of people think they can get around it. And it's very hard to avoid it completely unless you create opportunity for them that is in alignment with where they want to go. At a certain point, if they want to go to the next level and become like you and build their own business, then you got to have a solution for that.
I love it, man. Do you think, seeing what you've seen over the last 10, 15 years, do you think that the traditional model is sustainable for teams? Or do you think that there has to be evolution even in that sense?
Yeah, I don't know how you could possibly, it's not sustainable. And can you build a big team? Absolutely. Can you build it to a certain level? There's a couple people that have done a really good job of creating opportunity for their key people. So creating a spinoff of, hey, listen, you can own a piece of this and you recruit agents and train and do all the things that we would do as a team leader. And they're your responsibility. And here's what you could do that and expand into new territories and have your best people have those opportunities as a part of that and get it to be more sustainable. I've seen that expand to 1,000 to 1,500 transactions and stuff like that. And some in some ways, maybe even more than that, I don't know of, but so it can be solved. But I think for most people, just that traditional team model is going to have a lid on it at some point. And what really makes it hard is when you try to step out of the production, because you're the majority of the revenue. It's 100% drops to the bottom line when you do a deal, and to replace that with someone else getting a percentage of that, it becomes very difficult to maintain profitability unless you're in a really high average sale price, area.
I love it. Now, for a lot of people right now, the buzzword in the real estate world, as we both know it and has been for the last couple of years, is EXP, right? Yeah. And that's something that you've just came upon the last couple of years, but you've really taken the bull by the horns and you've taken off with it. How did you find out about EXP? And did you instantly know that this is where I got to go, or was there a little bit of hesitation? This is probably not real.
Yeah, there's always some ego in the way, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. But we were building a coaching. We had built the coaching, and ultimately, what Jay Abraham taught us was to build a system. Like he said, he literally asked this question in 2006, and they had it on video, so they videoed the whole thing. So they had the video of the question. I didn't even remember asking this question to him or his answer, but it in some way shaped kind of our vision for where we were going. And we never really got off of this. We were pretty good about, like, when you're evaluating opportunity is like, is this in alignment with where we're trying to go, right? Like, is this in alignment with the vision, or is this going in a whole different direction? Because if it goes in a whole different direction, you got to say no, because it's not in alignment to the true vision. It becomes a distraction. But Abraham said, man, he says, if I were you, I wouldn't create a coaching and training company. I would partner with agents. And as if your systems are duplicatable, then install your systems, your marketing in place in their business, and partner with them for a piece of the upside. So find agents that are like you, directable, good values, and partner with them and build it that way. And that was essentially his idea. And so we were trying to get to that before we got hit in the face. The whole everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So we got punched in the face a lot. And so the plan didn't get executed quite the way that he'd originally described it. We became a coaching company by accident. We were taking over the sales from a website company right before that. And then as we were evolving, the more we did coached agents to success. And we also had a company that did radio and television for real estate agents exclusively, and like Barbara Corcoran endorsements, different celebrity endorsements, stuff like that. So we could help an agent really dominate an area, like become the Incredible Hulk in a marketplace. And so we helped a lot of people get to that level, but we got to look under the hood of a lot of businesses along the way and help them do it the right way, because we understood profitability now. We didn't before, but we could help you do it profitably and get to a point where you could maybe step out of the business, which was ultimately what most people aspired at some point, to at least get your weekends and evenings back.
What's up, Dream Builder? I hope that you're getting a lot of value from this episode. Note takers are money makers. So I hope that you're taking lots of notes, and I hope that you'll implement something that will help to change your real estate career. If you want even more access, even more resources, and you want a community to help keep you accountable, well, I want to invite you to head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. Again, that's DreamNationAcademy.com. That's where I hang out, as well as the team, and we host so many resources to help you along your real estate journey. So again, that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Let's go ahead and hop back on into it.
So it's like everybody else. I looked at it half-heartedly. Somebody mentioned it to me. I didn't even give it a look. Then
why?
I just didn't know the guy. And in all honesty, my takeaway from the conversation, he was showing me a stock and this and that and the other. And because we had built a brokerage in Dallas, we had started a new brokerage in Dallas. So I'd actually sold the one in Oklahoma, started a new one, and it was growing. And we had a vision, and we had a team of 40 plus individuals in our company. We were at $8 million revenue. We did $2 million our first year in GCI in the brokerage, and with 10 agents, and we put all our horsepower systems behind the agent, built their personal brand. It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool. And so I was looking for better solutions for our model. And the takeaway I had from that was like, we got to put stock in our business model, because that guy wouldn't stop talking about his stock.
Yeah.
But I wasn't ready. And I wasn't, I wasn't ready to listen to the business model as an opportunity at all. I was looking for what's working with this business model that I can adapt, adopt, and apply to my own. And so that was my big takeaway, was ownership was a key thing, because that dude is crazy out here recruiting. I didn't even know the revenue share model existed, but he was like crazy trying to explain the model to me, all excited about it over the stock. I was like, I've never seen an agent that excited before. So that was my takeaway from that. And it was at an OU game, an OU football game against Ohio State. And it was me and my son was there. And I was like, this dude should be asking me questions, but he won't stop talking. I remember thinking that. But he was so excited. That was my takeaway. It was like, man, he really loves this company. So anyways, that goes on. I never think about it again. And then a good friend of mine, Chris Waters, who was a client of ours for years, he's the number one agent in Austin, Texas. He sent it to me, and I listened to a webinar that had been recorded. And I remember my CFO at the time was sitting on a plane next to me, and I was like, dude, look at this model. Like, this may be brilliant. And I can't remember what we were doing, but we were going somewhere or whatever. And if my CFO was with me, it was probably an important meeting. But so we're still moving down the road on our vision. But like, I saw it, and I was like, had a glimpse of it. Just the timing wasn't right for me to really truly investigate it. And then once we solidified some of the main numbers in our model, and it was time to scale, like the reality was, now we have a very capital intensive model of investing in the marketplace. We would hire the agent, an ISA. We would do all their Facebook ads. We were running like $125,000 a month on Facebook. We were coming, but we were going to have to raise money to scale. It would have been too difficult to bootstrap it with the model that we had. We were delivering too much on the front end for these agents. And so, but it was an attractive model, but I could see what the next 10 years of my life was going to be if we raised capital on this business model. Like, I was going to spend the next 10 years of my life building this big real estate company, and a buddy of ours who was Al Stasic, who was at the time had just lost his 2 top agents, and was in our masterminds. We're all talking about how do we keep our best agents. We thought this partner model was the way to go. The only thing I didn't like about it was we tend to find agents at about 15 to 20 transactions that would be our partner in a territory. And that's not the people we liked working with the most, right? Like the people we liked the most were like us, that had big businesses and are entrepreneurial. And that was the people we liked. And so we tried to marry our mastermind to this model as being area partners. And then they would get the opportunity to build it out in that territory. And that was cool because now we're getting our best people involved. But what we learned is what we could do in Dallas, most of our top agents and clients couldn't really execute on that easily. Even our best ones had a hard time implementing a call center and running Facebook ads to all these territories. Like it was pretty heavy. Yeah. So we're seeing some of the constraints in the model. And Al Stasic says one day he's moving to EXP. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm thinking like, I got to poke holes in this. Number one, because he's one of our top guys and I don't want him going off in some new direction. And number two, I want to look at it because, if it was better for him, I wanted to understand it because he felt like he'd done the homework and was pretty excited about it. So I looked at the video and I just read the book Principles by Ray Dalio. And I was sitting in the living room floor and I was going through it with my wife and my son. And I was really, because I like to teach it, you know what I'm saying? And like, if I teach it to someone else, I'm more likely to remember. But I remember I was trying to teach it to my wife about it was radically open-minded and transparent. It's like, assume that you're wrong and whatever your thinking is, right? So like when I mentioned ego earlier, that was what was in the way most of the time. And for a lot of people is the ego, right? Like, man, I built this company to 10 million. We're an Inc. 5,000 fastest growing company 6 years in a row. I'm not going to push my vision aside just because I see a better business model. That's not happening. That's the little voice in your head. You can do it too, Jay. You can do it. No, you got to assume that you're wrong or your way's better. That's the other voice that was in my head. Is like, what y'all is doing is going to revolutionize the industry. And it was premised upon how do we add the most value to an agent's life? Like we were just moving further down the value chain, trying to deliver the maximum value. Like it's so hard to go implement all the stuff we could teach you to do. We just said, we'll do it for you. And you become our partner. We're going to build your brand and you're going to be the dominant agent in the marketplace because we're going to make sure you get there. And we had all the training and all that stuff to do that. So like we knew we could help them with what they needed to learn and the skill set and all that kind of stuff and what to say and the presentations. And we built all that through NAEA. All that was, so we had all those pieces and it just seemed like it was a better way. But like for the first time, I was really understanding, like, I'm just going to assume that I'm wrong. And let me just look at this with an open mind and say, I'm going to assume that what I think is wrong and that our way's not better. And I watched it and man, I remember pacing around afterwards. Like, man, if this shit is real, if this is all true, everything that I'm seeing here, like either we got a lot of work to do because we didn't even see revenue share we didn't have a virtual office. We were already running into that in Atlanta with the office and trying to get the office set up and going. And it was just like the amount of companies that we had already had to set up. And it was overwhelming and we were not ready for it. And I knew what was going to happen. I knew what was coming was going to be, we will learn something like that 2x4 in the face I've taken before. I started feeling, man, I don't know if I really am that passionate about this. It's going to be harder work than maybe I've ever put in before. And so I started thinking about this model. I said, man, and I skipped out. I didn't even tell Mike. I skipped out on a trip we were supposed to go on together. And I went to EXPCon and I went and I met every person in the company that Brent Gove would connect me to. And I saw the team that they had around them. I saw that they had built something special and I understood the business model forwards and backwards and understood why I believed in the model. And then I went to the event and I saw people that I knew that I respected and people that I saw a bunch of people I knew. And I'm like, man, what's up, Clayton Getz? What's up, Cliff Freeman? He used to coach for me. Clayton used to be a client. What's up, Jeff Willems, a friend of mine. And I started seeing all these people that I know. And I'm like, and the vibe in the room was like a lot like our big events that we used to do. It felt I felt this energy around it. I'm like, man, I got goosebumps. I was like, shit,
it's like a startup. For people who don't know, it's like a startup. That was what did it for me as well. I'd already signed on, but when you go to those events and you have, and not even just EXPCon, but something that's been really dope is Brent Gove, as you've already mentioned, and a lot of other leaders, they put on these smaller events and 150, 200 people can go twice, Port of Arts, and now in Dallas, what is that, in October?
Yeah.
The Tony Robbins, the Dallas event, is it October or November?
It's actually September, but I think they're going to have to push it due to COVID-19. I think we're on lockdown here in Texas. So I think that's getting pushed. Once all this frees up, yeah, you're right. There's a tremendous amount of events to be able to get in the room with the top people in the industry. These are not just talking about, and there's the opportunity. What I saw was the opportunity was real. I met Rob Flick. He showed me his monthly revenue share check at the time was $155,000. I'll never forget it. I asked him how he did it, and he told me he was doing these things called lunch and learns. And I was like, if he can do that, I know I can do it, because we can build systems around this and do it. We can go crazy with this. And so, man, I went all in, and I didn't know if it was real or not. I didn't know if the opportunity was real or not. I thought it was. I saw that it was possible. And we jumped in with both feet, and I pivoted our brokerage all the way into it and just leaned in on it and spent the next really 6 months. That's all I did. And Mike wasn't even in. He had 2 other business units that he was working, and we split all our business units up. We had about 6 different companies, and we gave ownership to one of them to one guy, and then Mike took 2, and I took the brokerage and coaching. So we split them all up because we were doing it with the brokerage and everything. We were doing about $10 million in revenue, but we were stealing resources away from one to the other. And so you really couldn't see which model was actually producing the revenue, because it was too blended. Right. So we split them up, separate P&Ls, and we're going to shoot the ones that are losing money, and we're going to keep the ones that are winners. We ended up shooting them all except for coaching, and the brokerage turned into EXP, which was the biggest opportunity of all. And that's when Mike eventually pivoted all his into alignment, and he's full into EXP. And it was a heck of a thing to do. To do that, and to even consider doing that in the beginning was not an easy decision, but yet it was, because I just believed in it. I believed in the model. We tried everything to solve, and it just solved the biggest problems that we had seen, and it created opportunity bigger than what you could create for yourself. I couldn't have built a company that was going to create the opportunity that EXP had already created. That was the takeaway, right? Like, go build something myself, and hopefully don't screw it up, and everything goes great 10 years from now. Maybe someone buys it, and then you're like, do the math. Well, what's it worth? Well, and then I did the Real Trends. Steve Murray has been a part of every big real estate sale that there's ever been. And if you read his stuff and go study it, 1.5 to 3 times EBITDA is where it's at. And even if I'm on the high side of that, we knew what our projections were for down the road. I'm like, that's a long time and a lot of work. For 2,000 agents was our target, and we were trying to build all of them super successful. So like, we were taking an agent per market, territorial type approach, which would have been great for those agents that were in those territories, but it's also limited. But yeah, or I could be now where I'm at 3,400 agents at EXP, and I have 0 cost and 0 overhead whatsoever. I'm living my best life. It's the real deal. It's the real deal, man. If you're not looking at it, you're not doing the math. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. And I agree. For somebody out there that you've talked a lot of high level vision, you've talked a lot of big business, but for somebody who is that $1 to $3 million agent right now, and they're just trying to figure out how they can even get to $5 to $10 million, do you still feel that EXP is the best option for them? Yeah,
it's a great question. And I think the key thing is, yeah, man, you got to be, this is what the secret sauce here in this company is the fact that the people are willing, the best of the best in the industry are incentivized to help you. You can't really put a number on those events. And for instance, like, we used to do events, it was $25,000 to be a member of our mastermind. Not anymore. There's events like that everyone in the company is putting on that you get to be a part of that you otherwise would never have been able to get in the room. And so that's where I found all my success. I found my success by learning from others. And unfortunately, the brick and mortar model is not conducive to learning. You have to get outside. And anybody that's been successful will tell you the same thing. I didn't learn from my brokerage. I didn't learn from anybody in my brokerage. I paid somebody outside of my brokerage, probably outside of my marketplace, most likely, because nobody that's in your office is going to tell you what's working for them, because you're right there. You're a competitor. Even if it doesn't matter. It's just not a congruent thing. There's not this helping each other vibe in that brick and mortar model. Maybe somebody else at RE/MAX from another market, if you go to the national event, will help you. But you still got to get out of your office and go learn from other people. And EXP is different. We're in alignment. And we all have stock in the company. So there's this company first mindset. Even my dad's brokerage, I didn't care. Like, if my dad tried to come at me with the vision and blah, 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 I'd be like, yeah, it's fine as long as you don't mess with my split. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't congruent. You're taken from me, not a DXP. That's not the feeling. We want the company to succeed. Why? Because we're owners in the company, number one. And then there's this incentive for you to share and give back. And there's a platform to do it on. And so now all this stuff that this training and all this 55 hours a week of training, like you tell me you want to be successful and you're doing 1 to 3 million, then I can tell you that it's all right here. Okay. In the brokerage, it's different than what every other company can say. And if they do it, which Keller Williams is the only one that does, if they do, they charge you for it. That's the difference, right? That's not true alignment, right? It's a profit center for Keller Williams. They're not meant to make you successful. They know that the average agent is going to come in and sell 3 houses to their aunt, uncle, and cousin, and then get out of the business. That's the model of real estate. It's a recruiting model. Okay. No one's really waking up every day thinking about your success until you have alignment like they do at EXP. I wake up every day thinking about the agents in my group and what am I doing to help them become more successful? And I'm doing it for free. Why? Because I get paid on the back end. That's a little bit of money off of what you pay into the little bit of money you pay into EXP.
Company dollar, not their dollar.
Company comes out of what you pay in on the 16,000 cap. And it's just a little bit, but a little bit. And then if I help you bring another agent on and become more successful, if I can help people become more successful, we all win together. That is it's a special thing. And it's something I've never seen in real estate. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in any business model where you've created this leverage. Glenn's a genius. He leveraged the best and I remember a comment somebody made from a long time ago, a post that he made. He said, we're going to make the opportunity big enough that the right people will join us and help grow this company. And that's what he's done. He made an opportunity bigger than anything that you could do for yourself. And now it's not just the company has to provide this training and come up with how they're going to make you successful. He's got everyone in the company wanting to help everyone in the company become successful. And that's a kind of vibe you don't get in any other company. And so that in and of itself, if you're a 1 to 3 million and you're telling me you seriously want to grow, then you get with the people that are incentivized to help you grow. And I think that your chances of doing that are going to be a lot greater at EXP than any other company.
I love it. And I'll tell you the thing that I resonated with the most is when you start talking about leverage. A lot of the times when you've shown that you can build any type of business or you can build an influence, people always want to pick your brain and they want to sit down with you, but they don't want to pay. Well, this is your prime opportunity. And here's the other thing. Sometimes people are like, I don't want to go recruit. The best part about it is not everyone, we maybe say 5% of the company actually goes out, right, and recruits. But here's the thing. Jay, Casanova, whoever it is that's above you, they have an incentive. And it doesn't have to be looked at as recruiting. It's just, hey, we want to bring everybody to become a part of our tribe so we can all win together. And just like you said, we have stock in it. There's so many things. And people, hopefully at some point, they'll see it because for me, it's funny, the guys who came and recruited me, they came into the Berkshire office, right? Jeff Cohn's in that office, Adam Briley's in that office, all those guys, they came into the Berkshire office and was like, look, if you just give me 15 minutes of your time. So I didn't know that this is what they were going to pitch me. But the saying goes is once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I saw it and I'm sitting inside and I'm thinking to myself and I'm like, same thing you said, man, but if this is true, if this because I'm thinking at first in the beginning, I'm like, man, there's no way. There's no way. And then as I see it, I'm about 15 minutes in and I'm like, oh, there might be a little way.
Maybe that is real.
And then when I go to the event and I see, okay, I got Jay Kinder here and I go back and I'm Googling, I'm like, is this that same Jay? Okay, that looks like him. This is the same dude from YouTube. Okay. And then from there, you can go up and you're sitting around the pool and you're like, hey, so why did you come? And just like you said, the energy is something that's unmatched. And so I hope that everybody gets to experience it because the one thing I tell people is the only regret that I've experienced from anyone in EXP so far is the regret that they didn't make the decision sooner.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. No doubt. Yeah, it's the real deal, man. Yeah, I couldn't be happier with all the things that I've done. And you hit the nail on the head. Leverage is the key. There was no leverage in the model that we were building. It was going to take a tremendous amount of effort and 100% of my focus and attention. And now I have 0 employees. I work from home, and it's not recruiting. Like the people that get caught up in that. First of all, if there was a way for you to get financially free and have ultimate time freedom, wouldn't you want to learn that skill anyway? If that was an opportunity for you, like that's like saying, no, I don't want to learn how to go after for sale by owners because I don't want to make the calls. Well, then fine. Then be unsuccessful where you're at. That's fine with me. But you can be successful at anything. And the thing is that what people experience once they join is it's not recruiting. It's people coming up to them and being like, hey, so how do you like an EXP? And you're like, shit, I could probably recruit this person if I knew how to recruit. So, so they'll come back to you later and say, no, I told you I wasn't really going to be interested in this recruiting thing, but people keep asking me about it. Like, shouldn't I be doing something like send them a video or this or that? I'm like, yes, there's a process here. Let me show you what the process is. All right. And then they put somebody on a call with you, and that person watched the video and they're like, I get it. This is great. I don't have really any questions. And it's like, it's not selling at all. It's like either you get it or you don't. And for the right people, like, I'm looking for people who are looking for me. I'm looking for people that are looking to be successful. And I believe that this is a place you can become more successful. So if you're looking to be more successful, then this is a no-brainer. If you're not looking to be more successful, stay where you're at. Okay, that's how I see it. And so and people that tell me that they're not interested in recruiting it's such a cop out to not look at the model deeper. Because if you look at the stock, you look at the technology, you look at the alignment and the people that are going to be helping you, you look at the training, you look at the technology, you look at everything in this model, and you do the math and be a damn business person like you should be, and you do the math, even without the revenue share side of it, the math is going to be in your favor. And if you're a producer, it's absolutely in your favor. If you aspire to be a producer, it's the best place to be, because people around you will suck you up to the top, and they're incentivized to do that. If you never recruit a person at all, you still should be at EXP if you do the math, in my opinion. Those are facts. Let's do the math. Sit down, challenge me. You know what I'm saying? I'll show you. But because if you haven't done the math, then you owe it to yourself to at least get real with the numbers.
I love it, my man. Hey, this has been a phenomenal conversation. There's somebody out there though they want to blaze their path just as you have, right? Yep. And they want to become a top producer. They want to build a big tribe, but they have that little voice in their head, and that little voice tells them that they're not smart enough, maybe they're not strong enough, or they just don't have enough resources. What's the one thing that you would say to that person to get them to just take action?
Man, shoot. The thing that I always really resonated with me was Darren Hardy. And Darren Hardy talks about the pendulum doesn't swing to success, right? The pendulum swings first to failure and then to success. And the more you swing to failure, the more success you have. The more you swing to failure, the more success you have. And that's been absolutely like my story is, you know what I'm saying? Like my whole life has been pushing to I wasn't trying to fail, but I pushed to failure, and then I'd have a little more success. And so, just embrace the struggle, because the struggle is the way. Okay. Like, just know you're going to fail. You're going to hit walls, but because of that, the pendulum will swing more to success in your favor. Nobody makes their first call and on an expired and gets it, and then gets everyone after that. Like, right. People are going to hang up on, you're going to learn. And so just embrace that struggle. If you're comfortable and you feel safe where you're at, then you're dying. Okay. You got to get into that where, man, I feel uncomfortable. If there's something that you don't want to do it right now, like those moments where you're like, man, I really don't want to do that. In that moment, you got to change that trigger to be do it now. I mean, if I don't want to do it, I should probably do it right now. So I don't want to make these calls. Shit, I better do them. Then I'm doing right now. Do it now. So just start changing your framework and embrace the struggle and embrace failure, and you will become successful. That would be my advice to that person.
I love it, man. That's all you needed to hear. For anybody that wants to stay connected with you, where can they find you at?
Oh, so yeah, I'm pretty easy to find, man. If you use go Instagram, Jkender, I think it's Jkender82, or Facebook, find me on Facebook or whatever. And happy to have a conversation with anybody, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. If anything I said resonated, I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Dope, man. Well, thank you again. I want to be the first one to say thank you. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I look forward to having many more with you, my brother. Hopefully next time on My Ties, and maybe That's Texas right. or Port of Arts again.
Yeah, baby.
Remember DreamNation and the dream we trust. But just as he said, you have to take action, and there's going to be a lot of failure that comes with it. But just know that your pendulum will swing the other way. Remember, in the dream we trust, we have to take action, or otherwise it'll only merely be a fantasy. We'll see you on the next one. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to walk with you on this real estate journey. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.